Retirement drift is real, and it destroys more dreams than money ever could. You've worked your whole life for this moment, but without purpose, your golden years can quickly turn gray. Now, you may have an open calendar, but if your spirit isn't engaged, every day starts to feel the same. That's why today, we're going to change that. I'm going to walk you through 11 powerful activities that can reignite your excitement, strengthen your health, and bring deep fulfillment back into your days. Hi, I'm Jason. I build retirement plans every week, and one thing I've learned is you can have all of these things in line: income, investment, tax, etc. But if you don't have purpose, your best days can quietly pass you by. So let's talk about a better route. All right, so what I want to cover first is a really profound piece of advice I'd got years ago when somebody told me that love is actually spelled Time. When I first heard this piece of advice, it was really interesting because the person was just telling me that a lot of times people use words, but as we all know, actions really matter. And we end up spending time with the people that we love, and we end up spending time doing the things that we love. So, if you really want to show somebody that you love them, you need to spend time. And so, what does that mean? It typically means our friends and our family. And this is a concept that I've covered before in previous videos. And I've also covered a really interesting study by Harvard. It's the longest study ever on happiness. It actually started all the way back in 1938. And what the study has concluded over 86 years of being in place is this: our happiness is directly tied to our relationships. And how do we have good relationships? We spend time with the people that we love. And so that may mean a weekly date night if you're married. In terms of your kids, it's finding those times to get together that are really outside of someone's birthday or the holidays. And for those of you who have grandkids, there's really some fun games out there where you can find ways to really interact and get to know each other better. And I want to get these right. The first one is called Tales Life Story Interview Kit, and the other one is Our Moments Generation. So you may want to jot those down. Again, those were Tales Life Story Interview Kit and Our Moments Generations. And what that does is it just provides a framework so that you're able to engage and really get to know one another at a deeper level so that we're spending time with the people that we love. Now, the other part of this is doing the things that we love. We need to be spending time in retirement doing the things that we love. And that's what we're going to be covering in these next 10 items. So we did an informal survey recently amongst all of our advisors, and we asked a simple question: what do our clients like to do in retirement? And one of the biggest responses that we got were big travel adventures. Now, we'll sometimes refer to these big travel adventures as your one anchor trip. And many people that I know have one big trip or one anchor trip a year. And a really good habit that I've seen that they do is on your way back from that trip, you go ahead and plan the next trip. You want to keep that momentum so it's not a one and done, it's not a one off. And some of the big ones that we've seen that people have really enjoyed are these Viking cruises or riverboat cruises. Viking is a company, it doesn't have to be with that company. And what we found is people really enjoy these riverboat cruises because it's not as big of a like a cruise ship. And then also many times it's your peers, right? It's pre-retirees and retirees. And with a smaller boat, it's a little more intimate. Whenever you're going in terms of the river, you can get to different places, not just the typical ports that you can go to in terms of cruise ships. So that's really fun. One of the other really big things that we found a lot of our clients are doing is taking somewhat of longer trips in Europe. So this could be several weeks all the way up to a couple of months. And one thing that we have really found is it's a lot less expensive than you realize. Now, the flights, those can be expensive. But once you get over to Spain, once you get over to Italy or to Greece, one thing that our clients have found is if you do your research, your dollars can really go pretty far and you're able to see those more off the beaten path. So instead of going to the big cities, you can find these smaller cities and you really get to know the culture, you get to know the people, and a lot of times it's much cheaper than the tourist spots. And one of the other ones that we found that people have a lot of enjoyment out of and feel like they really got their money's worth are safaris. Now, sometimes, especially if you're going to an exotic place like Africa, you have to end up getting shots and it can be somewhat expensive. But most of the people, actually, all of the people that we've talked to that have taken a safari feel like it's just one of those bucket list items, one of those things that they're never going to forget. It's one of their big travel adventures. And then, like I said, when they're on the way back, you got to plan the next one because you want to keep that momentum going. Another really fun and fulfilling activity that we found is road and stadium quests. So, what do I mean when I say road and stadium quests? Well, road quests are you get on the road and you've got a quest, or really it's taking a trip and turning it into a mission. We've got a mission to hit certain places, or we've got a mission to hit certain stadiums. We actually have several clients who are huge baseball fans, and they have a goal to go to every major league ballpark in the United States. We also have a lot of clients that like to go on road trips and go to certain national parks. And one of them actually shared with us that they wanted to go to a presidential library in each of the 50 states. And I thought it was really interesting because I never really thought about presidential libraries, but these places actually have a lot of unique aspects to them. One of those presidential libraries that was recommended was the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, which is in California. And it actually has an Air Force One pavilion so that you can really walk in a very interactive way, see what the Air Force One that he flew on looks like, and you can kind of walk up and down the plane. Another one was the Harry S. Truman Presidential Library in Missouri. And what this has is something that's really cool. It's called the Decision Theater. And again, it's really interactive where you can walk through and kind of understand the big decisions that President Truman was making at some of the most critical points in our history. And then when we talk about road trips, it's hard not to mention RVing. You know, a lot of our clients have RVs and they just love to get out there and wander. And something you may want to consider is getting a membership with something called 1,000 Trails. And 1,000 Trails is a membership that gives you access to, I think it's more than 80 different campgrounds and over 120 parks so that you can go around and really experience all these beautiful places that our country has to offer for a reduced cost so that you can really turn travel into a mission. So this is great, right? To start to put these lists together of the things that we want to do to have a fulfilling retirement. But we also want to put plans in place to make sure that everything is in order whenever we walk out on life. And that's why I want to invite you to click the link below and download our Quick Start Estate Planning Guide. This is a simple guide. Why? There's 3 steps. Step number 1 is to organize everything, get everything in one place. Number 2 is to create a list of the companies that you're going to want to call to make sure that your beneficiaries and your estate plan is in order. And number 3, it gives you the exact script, the exact questions to ask to make sure that you can get everything in line. Because if you have something and you love someone, you want to make sure that that's in order for whenever you walk out on life. So click the link below, download that Quick Start Estate Planning Guide, and you can start to get things in order today. So the next one on our list is movement and social play. So this one is really twofold because it's movement, staying active, and then social play, actually staying engaged with other people. So some examples of this are golf because you're typically golfing with multiple people. Another thing that I think is often overlooked is bowling. You can join a bowling league and they're a blast. You know, my wife and I were actually talking about this recently where we said every time we go bowling, we have a fantastic time. And then we forget about it and we don't do it for another 6 months or a year or whatever it may be. So that's something that you may want to look into. Another things are these rails to trails groups. So different municipalities, different governments, different counties have these rails to trails. And what they are old railways that they've made into a paved pathway. And people are blading, people are biking, people are walking. And what happens is you can go ahead and Google it and find these groups that get together and you're getting out there, you're moving, you're in nature, and you're engaging with other people. And then the last one that I want to mention is the craze these days, and that's pickleball. Literally anybody that I talk to that is involved in pickleball, they've definitely drank the Kool-Aid and they love it. They want to do it multiple times a week. They're starting to meet new friends. They're really getting, obviously more active. They're getting out more. And several of them are getting their kids and their grandkids involved, which is wonderful whenever you can get multi generations get together to just have fun. So now on to number five, which is local micro adventures. So, what do I mean by local micro adventures? Well, local micro adventures is kind of like being a tourist in your own backyard or in your regional area. I was involved in something called Leadership Highlands. I was in a county called Highlands. And what we did was every month we kind of took a field trip and found out different aspects of our county. And it was funny. I grew up in the area, I'd spent many decades in the area, and I learned so much. There were so many things right in our backyard that I didn't really even know about. And so there's a couple of resources that I wanted to share with you. One of them is Atlas Obscura, and that's Obscura. And Atlas Obscura has a lot of hidden gems right in your backyard. Another resource you may want to use is Historical Marker Database, and the website is hmdb.org, Historical Marker Database, because there's a lot of historical places and we don't even realize it could be right around the corner. And then lastly, there are these Meetup or Eventbrite. Eventbrite is a company. Now, Eventbrite, you can typically buy tickets to different events, but Eventbrite also has different free things just to get people together. And that's Eventbrite, Brite. And I would go ahead and look at that, find out the different ways that people are getting together and experiencing these local micro adventures so you can all learn and experience these wonderful things that are close to home. So, this next one is really big for a lot of our clients, and it's called Family Legacy Experiences. Okay, so these family legacy experiences are typically a big trip or a big get together with our family. And my mom actually did this whenever she retired from teaching. She had taught for 32 years, and whenever she retired, she wanted to take a big trip. She actually wanted to take all of us on a big trip, which was a huge gift and a beautiful gift that she gave to all of us. So she wanted to go on an Alaskan cruise. So we all flew out to Canada, and we actually boarded the trip or boarded the boat out there, and it was just wonderful because if you've ever been to Alaska, it's just otherworldly. I mean, it is amazing. The nice thing about it too is you're all on that boat and you're all together and you're all experiencing these things as a family. And so a lot of our clients love to do that because they say, I don't necessarily just need this money sitting in the bank or sitting in some investment account. I want to turn it into experiences. And I want to turn it into one of those legacy experiences that my kids and my grandkids will remember for decades to come. One of the other things that I've found people that do, which is kind of more on a budget, are these grandkid field trips. So, as a grandparent, you go ahead and get the grandkids and you make a little adventure out of it. Go to historical sites, to museums, to maybe a concert or a play or whatever it may be. And it's a way for you to connect and really form those long term memories that are really special between a grandparent and a grandchild. And then on to number seven, which is lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is really about keeping that sense of wonder and staying a beginner because learning really protects your mind and it really gives purpose to your days. I think that's one of the things that I really look forward to, as I plan for retirement every week. I can't help but think of my own retirement. And that's one thing that I want to do in retirement is just go and be involved in classes and just continue to learn. There's so many subjects out there. There's so many things about history, about cultures, about, the different areas of school that I can do on my time. And I can really dig into the things that I like. And that's something that you can do too. And there's actually some really neat resources that can help to facilitate lifelong learning. And one of them is the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or OLLI. So if you have a college or a university near you, you can go up and look for Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And many of them have free classes that you can go audit or go ahead and sign up for. And it really improves cognition. And also, it allows you to meet new people, not to mention, it gives you structure. You've got class to go to, whether that's once a week or twice a week or whatever it may be, but it's on your time and it's about the things that you want to learn about. And something else that we've found that our clients really enjoy doing are museum docent programs where you end up being a tour guide at a museum where you can educate the public. And a lot of people just love doing this. Another thing that you can do is get involved with a theater. Maybe that's a local theater, a small theater, maybe it's tied to a university, maybe it's one of those nonprofit theaters, and they need volunteers. And it's a way to kind of get involved and experience the arts and also get involved and experience new people. And one last resource I want to leave you with are Master Naturalist courses. And these really focus on natural history and conservation. And again, they're typically free for people that are retired. And it's just a way to continue that sense of wonder. Number 8 is really, really big amongst retirees, especially our clients that we talk to, and that's creativity. When we engage the creative side, we're engaging that right side of the brain. And when your hands are busy, your mind is calm. I actually remember a gym teacher from high school that whenever we weren't working out, we were just kind of being lazy and just sitting on the equipment. He used to say, "Idle time is the devil's workshop." And I think that's really actually some wise advice. And so being creative and using those gifts, and even if you don't feel like you're creative, you can learn new skills. So what are some examples that we've seen that may give you some points of inspiration? Well, sometimes it's pottery, sometimes it's painting. Photography is a big one that we see. There's some more technical ones that people learn how to do glass work, which is really beautiful and really neat. Woodworking. Several of our clients have actual woodworking, workshops, a lot of machinery, and they do some really intricate stuff. It's amazing whenever they bring those into our office to share. Staying creative is important. Pablo Picasso has a quote, and I'm just paraphrasing here, but every child is an artist. The trouble is remaining one as we grow up. And so I think that that's really important, especially in our later years, because I think that we all have that creative side and there's a lot of different mediums. We just got to find the one that brings us joy. So number 9 is an important one, and I would argue possibly one of the most important that we'll cover in this list. And it's all around service and mission. And there's another quote that I've heard often, and I unfortunately don't know the author, but it says that a life lived in service is a life well lived. And so, if you're a person of faith or you just like giving back and helping others, I think it's great to find those ways that you can be of service and that you can be involved in a mission. We have a couple of clients that actually organize mission trips. Now, those mission trips can sometimes be local, in the local community or somewhere in the United States in like a poor or an area that's experiencing a lot of hardship. And sometimes it's going international, whether that be to Haiti or to Asia or to Africa. And it's really a beautiful thing to see that our clients have a desire to go out there and to give back. And I really want to give a shout out to my dad. My dad in retirement got very, very involved in something called Home Again. He lived in St. Augustine, Florida, and there is a ministry called Home Again that focuses on homeless people. And it's a really, really beautiful way to spend your time, to give back and to really give a helping hand to people that are going through some hard times. And it's a way to also just connect, right? We want to stay active and we want to stay connected to people. And a beautiful way to do that is a life lived in service and mission. And as I mentioned, there's several ways that you can do this. You can work with your local church. Maybe there's a local food bank. Perhaps you want to get involved in conservation in national parks. And with some of the national and even state parks, if you volunteer, especially if it's a place that's away from your hometown, they'll provide housing, which is fantastic. And then lastly, there are some of our clients that actually get involved in prison ministries, which is a wonderful, wonderful way to kind of be a friend to those people that are really struggling. So these last two on our list, I'm kind of considering a little bit of a bonus, fun, and fulfilling activities. And the first one is called Walk with a Doc. So you can go ahead and Google this. Walk with a Doc is a national program that different physicians become a part of, and they're basically meetup groups. You can be walking in a mall. Perhaps it's walking in some downtown area or in a state or national park. And they happen pretty regularly. And it's just a wonderful thing because not to mention that you also get to kind of be active, you get to be social, but you can maybe ask the doctor a couple of questions offhand, right? Of things that you have going on in your own life or with a family member. You've got quick access to a doctor because you start to form relationships with them. So I think it's a wonderful way to kind of stay active. Not to mention, the doctors themselves oftentimes will bring resources every week or however often that they meet for you. So you can get some tips and some tricks and some insider information, if you will. And then you're staying active and you're staying engaged and keeping with your community. And the last fun and fulfilling activity that we have revolves around music. Now, I think that this is, again, one of those really, really beautiful ways that retirees spend their time when they're finally retired. Several of our clients are part of a local band and they just have a blast. Sometimes they're kind of more formal and they perform at, various theaters and whatnot. Sometimes they perform at their local church. Some of them just have a band and they travel around. They go to different restaurants or the local VFW. And it's a really, really great way to use the gifts and to just have fun. If you don't play an instrument and you're more of a vocalist, there's something called encore creativity. And encore creativity is, again, a national nonprofit that gets people together to form a choir. Because you may say, I'm not a soloist. I don't want to go out there and sing by myself, but I would sing with a group, and I actually, really enjoyed choir whenever I was younger. So check out Encore Creativity and get out there and use those gifts. I hope that this list was helpful to give you some ideas of ways that you can really change the game so you don't fall victim to that retirement drift and have a fun and fulfilling retirement. And I want to invite you to click this video here where I go over how Trump's big, beautiful bill is changing retirement.